Meanwhile, moving on to other world news, and the longest government shutdown in the history of the United States could be coming to an end. A group of Democrat senators breaking the stalemate by agreeing to proceed without a guaranteed extension to healthcare subsidies, which was the stumbling block that led to the shutdown. It brought with it, of course, the layoff of thousands of federal workers and saw major impacts on the US economy. On Sunday alone, US airlines announced that they had to cancel over 2,000 flights because of it. Our correspondent in Washington, Fraser Jackson, tells us more about the division now in Democrat ranks on the issue and what it all means for healthcare and the US government.
Yeah, well, a potential reprieve, albeit temporary one, from the government shutdown. 8 centrist Democrats and one of them an independent who caucuses with the Democrats, it should be specified, brokering a deal then with their Republican counterparts and indeed the White House to fund the government and key agencies through the holidays and until the end of January next year. Well, in exchange, they got within 1 month a guarantee from the Republicans that they would have a vote on whether to extend the expiring healthcare credits that were at the centre of this debate that led to the shutdown in the first place. But many Democrats have long been sceptical that Republicans would stay true to their word on holding that vote once the government was indeed reopened. Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, the former running mate of Hillary Clinton's presidential bid, he was the latest senator to join that breakaway group, saying that he was focused on the impact that the shutdown has had on the thousands of federal workers who are in his constituency. He says that he managed to secure an agreement from the White House that it would reverse the mass firings that took place during this shutdown, as well as a moratorium on more firings until for the rest of the fiscal year, and as well as a guarantee that workers would be back paid for the shutdown. Some, however, will see this as a compromise, but many Democrats seeing this more as a capitulation by this narrow sliver of Democrats. It seems like the Republicans really refused to budge on their issue of holding a vote on healthcare until after the government was reopened. And ultimately, but for a lot of Democrats, it appears here that this small section of the Democrats blinked first and ultimately caved to a deal that was offered to them weeks ago, and they haven't really got much in return.
Even at that, it sounds like, OK, the government may get back up and running, but potentially not for the longer term. But how quickly is it going to get up and running now that the Senate has broken this deadlock?
Well, there is still a couple of procedures that need to go through in the Senate as well. There's also then needs to go back to the House to get voted on. But it should be noted that the Speaker, the leader of the Democrats in the House, has said that they are going to fight this as well. It's also not clear if there are any of the Republicans who might side with Democrats. They only need about 3 or so Republicans to break away from their caucus to block this in the House. But it appears that it will still go through the House if it does indeed get to that phase and then head to Donald Trump's desk as well. So the House currently is not in D.C. They've been on a 48-hour notice period, and now that this has gone through the Senate, they will be recalled to D.C. to have to vote on this before it gets into law. So there are still going to be a couple more days of this government shutdown, realistically, before things get back up and running. But I think really the interesting thing here is actually what's going to happen now with the Democrats, because they are far from united on this. Many calling it a terrible night, including Senator Chris Murphy, Bernie Sanders, the independent who isn't a Democrat but caucuses with the Democrats. Chuck Schumer was opposed to this deal, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. He said it did nothing to ensure that the crisis is addressed and that he was going to keep fighting for health care in the Senate. But really now people are calling for Chuck Schumer's resignation, including some of the Democrats in the House like Ro Khanna from California. He said that Schumer is no longer effective and should be replaced. And speaking of California, arguably the most well-known politician in California, the Governor Newsom, simply tweeting the word pathetic. So this is going to cause a rupture in the Democratic Party. I remember just days ago, they were riding high on the back of this election that had swept many different states across the United States. They were riding high on the back of that election win. And just days later, some of the activists and influencers that we see on the Democratic side saying that the party has managed to shoot itself in the foot already.